Hello, everyone, and welcome to Edge Talk Radio. My name is Angela Zabel. That's me. Today, we are going to be talking with Jackie Lapin, and we are going to be talking about following your soul's journey with it. She's a historic world traveler, and I can't wait to get into this one. So, who am I? My name is Angela Zabel. I am a teacher, coach, and a medium working with a team in the non-physical my entire life. I'm also a radio show host, writer, retreat host, gallery reader. I also do speaking engagements and offer guidance and mediumship, intuition, and so much more. You can find out more about me by going on my website, angelazabel.com. Make sure to check out my membership, which is the Amplified Universe monthly membership. This is a group understanding who we are, what we're doing in the world today, how we can move ourselves forward, and what our role is going forward. I can't wait to see you there. And also today we are with Edge Magazine. So, Edge Magazine, if I can get this in focus, Edge Magazine is the leading events and media resource dedicated to all aspects of holistic living, health, and wellness, and the mysteries beyond. Sharing information, wisdom, and resources, committed in promoting businesses, organizations, and individuals who support our collective journey to wholeness and balance. They are currently distributed in 30 states plus Canada, with over 17,000 magazines per printing, but also a vibrant online magazine with over 42,000 people reached per month. Have a magazine shipped direct to your door, stay up to date with the newsletter, become a drop spot, or Kelly Wagner, who also owns Edge Magazine, also has the Being Curious show. So make sure to check that out. You can check out more about that at edgemagazine.net. And today we are here with Jackie Lapin. She has been a lifelong traveler seeking the experience to experience history through the world's cities, villages, castles, landmarks, nature, and books. A Southern California native, she first began a deep exploration of the history of her state and the people who shaped it. It ignited by a trip to the California missions in third grade. That had to be fun. As an adult, she began to travel for work and pleasure, always accompanied by cameras. And when she couldn't travel, she read historic novels, historic chronicles, and biographies so she could better understand what she was seeing. It was her escape and her education. Photography gave her a sense of artistry and expression, in contrast to the practical dedication of her professional life. Jackie marked out an illustrious career as a serial pioneer, initially as one of the world's first women sports writers, and then owning the most prestigious sports PR firms. Her most recent companies refocused on helping personal growth authors secure podcasts and radio shows, and most recently, speaking engagements. She is a best-selling personal growth author herself, and she is now, after years in the trenches of serving others, Jackie determined the time was right to focus on her passion, sharing the stories, photos, and books that make history so fascinating to her. Hence the creation of her blog, The Historic Traveler, and her membership alliance, Historic Traveler International, dedicated to informing, uniting, and supporting other history and historic book lovers. In the Historic Traveler blog, Jackie shares about the content and images from her visits to more than 500 cities, villages, castles, landmarks, and more. Her slide archive includes nearly 20,000 images, and her personal library counts over 600 books. So explore more about the historictraveler.com. Make sure to check out her website. That's the historictraveler.com, and her blog is also there. She also is offering a free gift to people. It will be 20 great international cities where you can immerse yourself in history and the books that make you feel as if you lived it. And you can go on to the historictraveler.com guide to find that. And I'll also have the links down below. And she also has a membership, the Membership Alliance, where it is for lovers of history, travel, and historic novels, provides access to the Historic Traveler magazine, directories of the historic novels, mysteries, and the history books by country or region, historic hotels, TV dramas or broadcasts and streamings, exclusive travel discounts, a book club, a book swap, interviews with leading experts and authors, and the community with so much more. And that you're going to want to check in thehistorictraveler.com. And this is members. And make sure to check out her social media. She's on Facebook, LinkedIn, and also the Historic Traveler is on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and now also YouTube and TikTok. So make sure to check out her website for all the information at thehistorictraveler.com. And Jackie also has a lot of other nuggets when you get on there. She's also author of multiple books. The book of the art of conscious creation, practical conscious creation, visions for a better world. There's so much more to Jackie, and I can't wait to get into it. Jackie, thank you so much for being here. And I've just got to ask, how in the world did you start your travel career?
So, Angela, I mean, I got that history bug was when I was a girl. And when I was in college, I had one of the premier California historians as one of my professors, which
Oh,
just ignited everything. Then when I began to grow professionally, I started to travel. A couple of years out of college, I took a cruise all over the Caribbean with my college roommate. And from there, if I traveled for business, I always tried to hook on a couple of days on each side so I can explore where I was. And then when I had my own agency, I mean, I was traveling all over the world for meetings, and I was able to really capture all of that opportunity in all of those meetings that I did. So I would always plan somewhere between 2 and 5 weeks a year on the road. And depending on how much available time I had during whatever company I was running, you heard me call myself a serial pioneer. So all of that. But when I wasn't traveling, I was sitting at home reading historic novels. I mean, I'm not happy unless I'm in another century. So it all just seemed to come together and the novels and the history books, and I read history books too, and biographies,
yes.
informed my traveling. So as I'm on the road, I'm going, I understand what happened here. I know that this king did this and these people did that. And, all of the history that I knew came together to say, this, now I understand this. This is why this is the way it is. And the people that make history fascinating. I mean, I was at the Chateau Champollion in France a couple of years ago in a bedroom that Catherine de Medici was in before she kicked out her husband's former mistress and took over the chateau. So I know all this history. I've read it. I've seen it on television dramas. And I'm standing in the rooms where this actually happened. So, when you understand this isn't just a room where a queen lived, and you know what happened, or when I go to Holyrood Palace and I'm standing in the room where Mary, Queen of Scots' secretary was murdered, and which changed, the course of history, you have a much greater sense of the appreciation of what you're seeing. And so for me, the reading of historic novels, which is a great digestible way to get history, because it has to be well researched, and a lot of times it's about real people. Using that means to capture my history and then refine it by, Googling or, reading a history book gives you so much more knowledge when you walk into a place. And so that's what I wanted to do with the Historic Traveler. What's unique about this blog is not that it's a travel blog or even that it's a historic travel blog. What's unique about it is not only do I give you a storytelling of what's there, and I try to find something unique that you might not know about this place, plus just a plethora of images. I always loaded up with great images that I've taken in my travels. By the way, my archive is now up to almost 40,000 slides.
Wow.
And and then I give you recommended reading. For every blog, I give you recommended reading. And usually I'll give you both the historic novels and historic mysteries, and then I will give you the actual history books that will add more to it. So, we're just making it however you digest history and want to know more, it's going to be easy for you.
I love that because, some people are very visual. They just want the pictures. They want to see what's there. And other people really want to dive in, really understand the history behind it. And that's something you are after my own heart because I absolutely love history. I love the stories behind it, all the history behind it. Love to travel. So that's why I'm like, ooh, this is going to be so much fun.
Well, and you know what's cool about our pages? First of all, you can come over and you can just sign up for the blog, and we will send you a twice a month newsletter and say, here's the blogs you might have missed. Here's an opportunity to participate in an archaeological dig, as
Mm,
my next newsletter is going to invite you to. Here's the book club meeting next time. And this time we're talking about Ken Follett novels. Um, and I'm going to give you all kinds of information in that newsletter that, doesn't cost you a penny. Just sign up. And then if you want to go deeper, there is a membership program. And that membership program, as you so lovely indicated, we have the world's first directory of historic novels, history books, and mysteries by city, by country. So, read before you go, or if you just happen to love British history, you go there and you can work down your way down the list. We have series so that you can see what the second, third, or fourth after you read the first one.
wow.
It's really helpful. And then we did the same thing with television because people might have missed a lot of the TV dramas that are historic and we go all the way back to roots. And now we're going to give you where you can find them on streaming or on broadcast or other locations for this. Um, we did the world's largest list of historic hotels. We
Wow.
have now, and we have two meetings every month. One is for the book club, and one is the community, and that's where I'm going to go. Everybody can meet everybody. We're going to do parties. We're going to do interviews with experts and and authors. We're going to do the kinds of things that are going to keep you engaged in our community, so that you have fun and it's always something new and different. Give away prizes. So we'll do that. And then, as you mentioned, we have travel discounts. So we not only have a portal where you can get really deep down discounted travel, but we have a travel agent at no cost to you. No
Wow.
cost to you can book your trips for you. And if you were to, to log on at any point, you're going to be entered into a drawing for a 7 night stay in some historic locality. So
Wow.
it's a $2,000 value. And so on top of that, we have a book swap. So if you're trying to, get new fresh books without having to pay for them, just a little postage. We have a travel matching community. So let's say that you want to travel and you don't have anybody to go with. You can say, hey, I'm a female this age. I'm looking for a companion. I'm going to Croatia this summer. Who's interested? And start those conversations. Um, we also have, as you mentioned, a 75-page magazine. And the magazine is amazing. The first half is dedicated to destinations, and the second is to media. So that's where we go over books. We go over the TV shows that you should know about. And we also, in both of those, we have an interview. So in the destinations, this last one was the lighthouse, the founder of the Lighthouse Preservation Society. And he
Oh,
saved
wow.
most of the lighthouses around America. And then the interview was an author that's got three different historic novel series in three different time periods. So and we're going to just keep adding and bringing on things. And what's really good about this, I know you're thinking in your head, you're adding in your numbers. What is this going to cost? This is a lot of money. It's $19.97 a month. So,
Wow.
I mean, we're trying to make it so that it's affordable for everybody who loves all three of these things: history, travel, and historic reading. So, I mean, it's just we want to make this a headquarters that for people who might not share this with their friends, their family, etc., they're going to find a home here. And that's what our goal is. So I can find other people who are like me.
I love that. And I think it's such a great idea because there are so many people out there where they want to travel, they want to go explore different things, and just through circumstances or whatever, they're a single traveler and they're like, we want to do something with someone else, but a group that's fun, not the big, the huge groups that are out there doing the regular going around. You want to have those smaller groups and that, and finding a companion to do that with. And I think this is an amazing opportunity for so many of those people that are looking to do that, but not really sure how they want to do it without, being more comfortable traveling. I think that's so, so important for people.
Well, and eventually I will, be leading tours, bringing, I'm tie up with a tour operator that we'll have our own special history tours, but that's a ways off. We're still new. So know that that's in our thinking, but there's just so much else to keep you busy until then.
Absolutely. And all of that information, and especially there's so many people, you love to travel, but you don't want to stay at a regular hotel. You'd like to find the historic places. And for you to have that list of every state, every country, every where they are, what's there, that is amazing. How long did it take you to put all that together? Oh my
Well,
goodness.
the lead up to the launch was about 7 months. And
Wow.
I spent 2 months on the book directory by myself. And then my team filled it out and added the rest of the information. And they helped me with the hotel directory and I did the TV directory as much. And then, but while I'm doing all that, I'm digitizing many decades of photography. And so I'm actually working on the last of it. I can see the tunnel, the light at the end of the tunnel right now. So, but yes, and all that had to be done so that I can pull the images for the blog. So I've been taking digital photography for the last 10 years, but I
Wow.
had a ton of photography from before. And I've been, like you said, to 500 different locations, more than
Wow.
50 countries. And so now I just really needed to sort it, make it easy to find. If somebody says to me, "I'd like you to do, we're going to do we'd like you to do a guest blog here." I can go there, pull the content, pull the pictures, and give it to them in a couple of days rather than having to hunt through things.
That's huge. And I've got to say, so my mom had passed away little while ago, and that was one of the things we were doing is digitizing her slides. That is a big project.
Yeah, it really is. It
Oh my
really is.
goodness.
There went my weekends for the last 7 months.
Gonna say weekends, weeks, and you're doing everything else in between besides. It's not like this is your only thing you're doing. You are just a busy woman who is
I am.
involved
I
in.
am. As we've talked about and how we know each other as well, is I do podcast radio tours for authors, leaders, and experts. So that's one part of my life. I just sold one business so that I could make space in my life for this. And it was really like take it so that I can do this wonderful thing. And on top of that, there's a lot that goes into creating something like this. I had to write the website. My digital partner is fantastic, but I had to write it. I had to conceive it. I had to say, and then we had to sit down and figure out how to execute it all. One of the things I didn't mention is we also have a photo gallery on
Oh,
the
okay.
homepage. These are things you can access without having to go through the gateway. My photo gallery is you see all the images there's 8 galleries there now. There will be hundreds before I'm done.
Wow.
From different places and also nature and other fun collections like hot air balloons or
Yeah.
fall colors.
Yeah.
And then so you'll have that over there. We also have we have a comprehensive directory of insight guides, which is, I believe, the best travel guide for history nuts. And
Oh,
so we have a directory of 200 of them there. And then smack in the middle is our little store. So you can see my logo, which is really fun with all the historic logo icons in it. And so we've created things like uh, luggage tags and passport holders and clothing and tote bags and duffel bags and fun things that just, if you love this and you are a historic travel lover, now you can proudly proclaim it.
I love it. I love it. And you've been traveling. I know you started out, you were one of the first sports writers, the women sports writers. You kind of broke into that field, and I'm sure you were traveling for a lot of that. I'm thinking you were kind of doing some side trips along the way.
Well, in that, and when I in my sports writing years, I mean, I was still in college or just coming out of college. In I won the baseball writer scholarship, and very shortly, by the time I was 20, I was at the Detroit Free Press, and the 21, I was at the Associated Press and on the front pages of the LA Times. And 22, I was
Wow.
at the Washington Post and on the co-hosting Dodger Dugout on Channel 11 here in Los Angeles. So
Wow.
I really had a meteoric career, but I mean, I wasn't going physically anywhere except when I went to the Detroit Free Press and when I went to live at the Washington Post. But yes, I certainly did some exploring when I was in those places. I love colonial America, so being at the Washington Post was a real joy for me.
Absolutely. And as you've went to so many different countries around the world, and you've written books on consciousness and manifesting and doing things like that and creation. As you've done that, when you have been traveling, have you been drawn, has it been where it's been part of a trip or you purposely went somewhere to explore it? Were you drawn to some place or was it kind of built in with others trips you were doing?
Well, it was usually built in, but for example, one of the things that I know about Prague that not a lot of other people know is that Prague is built on energetic ley lines. When
Mm,
Rudolph II built Prague and laid it out, it was his astrologist, his alchemists, etc., made him aware of the energy because he was one of the us kinds of folks who are into energy. And so he wanted to make sure that Prague was the most victorious, successful, enlightened community in the world. And so he took advantage of those ley lines. And so for me, going to Prague, even though I'm not an energetic intuitive, not from that standpoint, I have other gifts. It was still just fascinating for me to be there, knowing that,
mm,
and to explore it from the standpoint of I know why this was done and where this was. So, yes, I'm always drawn to something. One next among next on my list is going to be Egypt, because who wouldn't want to go to Egypt and explore the spiritual vortexes and experiences there? So it's more tied into where the destinations I already want to go to, but I don't pick a place for that, just because um, history is my priority, but consciousness is my like second nature. So
yes. I love that. And and that's something I didn't know about Prague with the ley lines and the energetic aspects. Is that also something that is in like your blog or things you write about there, or is that more in the
it
other?
will be. Yes, that
Got it.
will be. I mean, right now, I mean, some of the blogs that are up there now is a fascinating castle in the middle of Milan that was the scene of some great drama, but the Duke there, the Duke of actually hired Da Vinci to come and do the Last Supper and also build the canals in Milan. And you can still go on those canals and walk up and down where these fabulous restaurants and old historic buildings are there that were, built from these canals that Da Vinci built. So,
Wow.
and so that's Milan and the castle and the family that lived there and their family crest, which has snakes on it. I mean, I give you little vignette photos, not just the big building photos. I'm going to, give you nuances that I'm seeing. So that's one. There's another one on the bridges of Paris
Okay.
and the history of about five or six of those bridges.
Um,
There's another one about, the Chicago River tour, cruise tour. There
oh,
are these incredible buildings that made Chicago, the great powerhouse of industry that it was, that it lined this river amidst the major, the modern buildings, the skyscrapers. These are these great historic buildings, and so I did a blog on the river cruise through history
I
in
love that.
Chicago.
And I've been to Chicago and done that historic architectural river tour. It is absolutely amazing. Highly, highly recommend it to anyone going to Chicago.
And go see my pictures. Some of them are drop dead gorgeous. I had a
Wow.
stunning day to shoot them.
That
So,
is
and so, I mean, I'm also trying to alternate countries
mm.
so that it's not the same thing all the time. And I'm picking one here, one here, one here, one here. So, and I'm not always just picking a country or a major city. For example, one of the things that you're going to see very shortly is the world's oldest continuing hospital.
Oh, interesting.
It's in France, started in the Middle Ages, and
Wow.
it's still serving patients, but in a different way. But the hospital itself an open air museum. So, there's also, when I was in France, I saw the world's most completely, um, a complete Roman aqueduct that's 3 levels. That's
Wow.
3 levels. And so you'll see something like that. I did something on Pompeii. So, it could be a destination, could be a building. And when I finish pulling things from the magazine, they're going into the blog as well. So we have a house of worship, we have a grand manor, we have different categories, adaptive reuse, buildings that were used for something in history and are now used for something different in modern society. So, we will pull things in. The lead story in this magazine is Taormina, Sicily, which is this incredible town overlooking Mount Etna that's puffing away, the volcano that's
Yeah.
puffing away out there. But it starts with Roman times, where there's a Roman amphitheater there, and all through this town with buildings from the 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th century. It's
Wow.
not very big. You can walk it. The shops are incredible. The antiques, the pottery, the marzipan,
Oh,
um, the clothing. I mean, it's just and the little restaurants and all of that. So I bring that all home to you with just a whole series of photos. And once they're in the magazine, and the magazine's quarterly period is over, they'll move over onto the blog.
love that. And I love how much information is there for people to explore, to check into, because for me to see a three level aqueduct, I think that would be absolutely amazing. And I'm just so I work with a team in the non-physical, and they're just kind of backing me up, and they want you to kind of go into, are some of these things accessible just by individuals? Can they do it individually? Do they have to do it with a group? And are there groups that go to see this tours that they can also be included in?
Yes, all of the above, actually. A lot of what I do is just walking tours. And the first thing I do when I get into a city is I'll take a bus tour, and either a half day city tour, or I will take a hop on, hop off, where I can stop and explore different things. But that gives me my bearings. And then I start walking, and I go to the places that I want to see and do that in more depth. Anybody can do that. One of the things we're going to have on our website, we're still making some changes, is I'm going to have Viator there. And Viator provides inexpensive tours in almost every city in the world. And you can book them in advance, and they're really easy. You go to their offices and meet up with an existing tour, or there's a bus tour, and they have you meet at a certain place. But they're really inexpensive. They're great tours. They usually have very good guides. Then, of course, there are the more elaborate tours. But you don't really have to do that in order to take advantage if you're already in a market, or you're going there and you want to hot-footed, as I say. Um, I had two fabulous days in Dublin, just walking all of the city with a guidebook, or you can get an inexpensive guide like that. I have on occasion paid for a full-time dedicated guide
Okay.
just that for that day because it's knowledge I couldn't have gotten any other way. It's something that I wanted to condense rather than have it spread over several days. I only had a couple of days in town. So there's just lots of ways that you can take advantage of this, um, and go as deeply as you want to, depending on what your budget is.
Got
Um,
it.
so yes, and that's one of the reasons why we give you the historic hotels and a travel agent, because some of the historic hotels may be out of your price range. The
Right.
travel agent can get you a lesser expensive hotel, or a room in one of the big chain hotels with less at way under price, or a condo resort
Oh.
that instead of paying thousands of dollars, you're paying hundreds of dollars. So we're trying to make it so that people can mix and match based on their pocketbook.
And that's something I think is so very important because a lot of people they want to do it, but they don't want to spend, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, but they're willing to spend some to go and check out different things and to do these trips of a lifetime. And as you've been doing that, so you said you also contacted with, is it Viator is what?
Viator, yeah, Viator.
Viator.
I'm
Viator.
I'm an affiliate of theirs. One of the things that I was going to tell you is that for $20 or thereabouts, get the inside guides, because those inside guides not only have a great history, but they are great about giving you a good walking tour and the restaurants and all the other things. They have what a lot of the other tour companies do, but I love the fact that they really you read the history section before you start wandering. And
Yeah.
then you just follow the pathway that they tell you, and they do different neighborhoods all over a city. Some of the books are combined. You might get two or three Scandinavian, countries in one book. Some of them are dedicated to just a city with a little map. And I believe there's also a way that you can get them. We have them also as Audible books
Okay.
on our resources where they're available. So there's lots of different ways to take advantage of this.
I love that. And for people to just explore the world because honestly, a lot of people are just tired of their regular lives, tired of things, and they just want to have the adventure out there and to
Mhm.
explore and to understand the history behind it, to know where we came from and how we got here, and to have that available for them, I think is so very important. And as you've been doing, you've been to a lot of historic places because you love the history. Is there one that stands out to you or a couple of them that are like your top places you love to go?
Well, the first is Bruges, Belgium. And
Oh,
Bruges is like a mini Amsterdam.
oh.
It's a great history. They captured a king in Bruges and Ghent, and he said to them, "If you let me out, I will bring all the merchants here and make you as rich as ever." And when they let him out, he reneged, and basically Bruges became a backwater. And so, because it wasn't the center of a lot of lace as it had been, and lace making and textiles, it just the buildings just sat there and somewhat decayed. But families brought them back, and it's as walking into history. These
Wow.
beautiful canals, these big buildings, they look like they're in Amsterdam. Um, and every corner is a new little lovely surprise. Flowers in the flower boxes. There's old convents. I mean, it's just amazing. So that's one of my all-time. Oh, and swans in the canals. Swans in the canals really top it off. So that's one. Um, I love Prague. I love Dubrovnik.
Where is that?
Dubrovnik is in Croatia. And if you watched Game of Thrones, you will have seen a number of scenes filmed in Dubrovnik. Its
Ah,
old city is astonishing. Yes, there's lots of restaurants and boutiques, but the buildings remain from medieval times. And it fronts on a big harbor, so you can sit on the harbor and eat and watch the boats come and go. And it has these towering walls and circular towers. You can actually walk the walls all around Dubrovnik.
Wow.
And I mean, I can go on and on like that with so many different lovely places. But a year and a half ago, I did a tour where I hit a lot of my bucket list cities, nine
Mm.
weeks in Europe. And Dubrovnik was just one of the highlights of the tour. Prague was also on the tour at that time. And Budapest. Budapest is a nice city as well. Um, it's got some great vistas, great history.
So you've been traveling all around. Do you go by yourself? Do you go with a group? And how and this here, how safe do you feel traveling abroad?
I have traveled alone much of my life, and I have never found myself in a situation where I was really frightened. Of course, I deliberately don't go into neighborhoods that are a little bit spotty. And when I'm doing dinner, I stay fairly close to home or go directly from Uber to restaurant and back out again. Um, but I always delight when I can travel with somebody
Right.
and do that. I'll go with a friend or a companion, and then sometimes I'll just go on a tour. So I wanted to see Ireland and really didn't have anybody to go with. And Ireland is a place you really need to have some historic background. And what do you know? The bus tour that I chose to take, my tour guide was the BBC history correspondent. So, needless to
Synchronicity.
say, she just filled me with incredible information that went beyond what the standard tour was. And I was always asking. And here's a little tip for people who travel: don't hang at the back. When
Mm.
you're on a walking tour or on a bus tour, don't hang at the back. Go to the front, hang out with the guide, and ask a lot of questions. You're going to get a lot more answers. And I find a lot of times, if they aren't, sometimes they're resistant to eating with the crowd. They tend to hold on, go with the bus driver or something like that. But if they're amenable to eating with you, boy, get to know them, because you're going to understand their country better. You're going to understand their perspectives. One of my French tour guide, discovering that I loved historic novels, gave me an entire series of books that had been translated into English that I ran home and bought.
Now that is a great way to travel.
Well, and how could you miss with a book series called The Cursed Kings?
Oh yeah, you're right into it with that one. It's the best of all worlds. It's the
Yeah,
drama, it's the going into the history, it's everything.
yeah.
And as you've been doing all your traveling, have you found, so I know you've done it a lot of different ways, where you've done it individually, where you've done it on your own, where you've done it with maybe just an individual guide for the time, or and with groups. Is there advantages or disadvantages, or something that you prefer over others yourself?
I am not one of those people that have unlimited funds, like most people. And so I have to really think about where I want to put my dollars
Right.
and how much time do I have? How quickly can I do this? How can I spread this out? Where are my priorities? And so when you're spreading your money out, you have to really think, okay, as I told my travel agent a couple of times, she gave me these big private tours on the trip when I was doing the 9 weeks in Europe. And I said, I can't afford that. How about a Viator tour or something like that? And there she would go back and she'd get me an inexpensive Viator tour. I didn't
Mm.
have to do top of the line. And so, it was just as good. Sure. Was it as luxurious? Did I have the loveliness of a personal guide to, give me all this information? Did I not, get the special meal? Yeah, I didn't get some of those things, but the trade-off was it allowed me to do more travel as opposed to, just plunk it all down in one place. So I am judicious about where now I will spend, but I'm judicious about where I spend that money to get
Right.
maximum value for the time. And frankly, some people say, well, I wouldn't go to Europe without going business class. Well, you know what? I've got over 1 million miles on American, but I parcel it. So yeah, I'll go economy. I don't have to go business class. If I really, if I really want to, I will. But the majority of it, it's just as easy to go economy, keep my miles for my next trip. I
Right.
don't mind. I don't sleep on airplanes anyway. So what's the difference?
And
Maybe a
that's
little
true.
leg room. Instead I get bulkheads or places where I can stretch out more.
And that's the biggest thing is people they want to travel, but how can you do it affordably? Because there's a lot of people. I mean, I've talked to so many people where one of their goals is I want to go to Europe, I want to see Europe, I want to see all different parts of Europe, but I don't know how I'm going to be able to afford to do that. And with what you're offering people with the options, because a lot of people don't realize there are other options out there than just the basic bigger crude, bigger combinations of trips out there that they can do it this other way. I think that is so important and knowing where they want to put their money because a lot of people don't think they have those options that they can choose, pick and choose. Like, going to the buffet line and choosing what you want and leaving the rest there. You don't have to take it all.
Well,
That-
and for example, if you do want to do river cruises, there's a whole lot of them. They go to different places. And if you go in the off season, you're going to get a much better deal. Now, for me, I want to go when there's sun because I'm a photographer. But some people, that's not as critical for them. And so they may just be willing to take the lesser amount. And the other thing is, you don't have to have a balcony room. You can also have an inside room with a window. Don't take the ones without windows. I'll guarantee you that you'll hate it. But
Yeah.
you could have a nice cruise room with a window, and you're going to save money and still get to see the same things that everybody else is going to see. I mean, who wouldn't want to have a balcony? But if you're on a budget, you sacrifice a little bit here and there.
And even when you're on a budget with something like that, if you don't have a balcony, you can get out, you can walk the ship. There's usually, you can walk around the ship and it'll get you out of being just in your room and explore and get to meet people too. Because that's also the part of traveling. Like you
Yeah.
said, you met the tour guides, the people, and being able to learn from them. That is so important. So
I,
important.
I was on a beach in Corfu, Greece, which is an island in northern Greece, 40 years ago. And I heard this woman's beautiful laugh. She had a British accent, and we just started to connect. She's been a friend of mine for over 40 years. She lives in Manchester, England. So it's never, I met a woman on a dinner cruise in Singapore an older woman who we got to chatting. She was a New Zealander. She said, come and stay with me in New Zealand. And you bet I took her up on that offer. You never know who you're going to meet. People are so nice. My last trip speaking of spiritual experiences,
Yes.
my last trip to Europe, that one where I did 9 weeks, I had been overworking for a very long time, not really allowing the universe to give me a whole lot of help. And I had a wonderful coach and guide who said to me, you really don't know how to receive. You need to open yourself to receive.
Mm.
That trip was my experience, my blessing of receiving. Because everywhere I went, people said, can I help you lift that giant suitcase? You look a little confused, miss. Can I take you where you need to go? Can I
Wow.
walk you to that area? Um, or, hey, I can see that the train is coming and you're a little concerned about racing to take your suitcase to get on the train. Let me do that for you.
Wow.
It was like that the whole trip. It was just amazing and a blessing. It was a spiritual experience for me as well as a travel experience.
I love that. And I love how you brought that up, how you meet people and you have these experiences, the synchronicities when you're open to it is it's so key to just knowing we're all human, we're all here together. And I keep hearing from my team also, they're also saying, and that's a testament to all of you, that most people in the world are really coming from a good place.
Yeah.
Most people are there. They are more than willing to help. Most people are good people. So to take the fear out of traveling and know that instead of looking at it as fear, is more of looking at it with excitement of who can I meet? What can I experience on this next part of my journey? And has there been some places, because you've been to a lot of places and you've studied history to the moon and back, is there some places where when you got there, you felt different things um, intuitively or just feeling of what it was like in those days?
Well, half the time when you go into castles in England and all that, I mean, you can feel there's presences.
Yeah.
Um, and so, that's always fun. I mean, the Tower of London is so haunted that you just can't. I mean, I don't see entities, but boy, you can sure feel the essence of people, who had traumatized lives and, are still rooted to those places. Um, but that's kind of the fun of it. I, we talk about synchronicities. Let me tell you a wonderful story that happened on that trip. I was
Yes.
in Genoa, and my guide for the day said, you want to go down and take pictures at Bocca d'Essa, which is this fabulous little place where the houses are multicolored and they spill down into the ocean. So
Oh,
I went and I ordered a taxi, and it was supposed to take 10 minutes, but it took 45 minutes because of bad traffic. And the taxi
wow.
driver who arrived was so lovely. He spoke no English, but he knew exactly where to take me. And he was mortified that this trip took 45 minutes and he had to charge me more than he would normally have to charge me. He just felt so bad about it. But he dropped me with the place and he showed me where to get the bus back because there were no taxis out there. So I go do my pictures, go get on the taxi, on the bus, which was a miserable experience. It was like a gazillion degrees. We were packed in like sardines, standing in the aisle, and then they hit the brake, and you're in
Oh,
everybody's chest. Um, and then after you leave that, you have to go across the road to the train station to get another cab back to my room. So
mm,
I take this trip. It's miserable. I get off. I can't wait to get out of the bus. I walk across to the station. I go to hail a cab. And who the heck do you think it is? It's the same guy that picked me up the first time. It's like God is saying to you, honey, I'm here to protect you. I'm here to take care of you. You don't have to worry. I'm sending my angels. I love that. Just one of my great synchronicity stories.
and you
I
had
mean, there
the
were millions of cab drivers
and
in
you get
Genoa, and the same guy picks me up.
that is definitely synchronicities and definitely knowing you are well taken care of with exactly who you needed. I bet he was very happy to see you too because he knew you got back safe and sound.
And he was astonished, actually, that there I was.
I love that. And have you stayed in some of the different historic hotels also as you
Yes.
and
Yes.
what is are there some that really just stand out
Oh,
and
yeah. Oh,
what are
yeah. Um, Two of my favorites. One is in Lucerne, Switzerland. It's called Des Balances, which once was a guild hall
no.
in the 14th century. And the hotel fronts on the Royce River, which is this little inlet off the Lucerne Lake, Lake Lucerne, that has a spectacular view of Lucerne's famous covered bridge with the big round tower in the middle of it. You've probably seen pictures of it, this flower lined bridge with
Yeah.
these historic paintings inside. So I'm looking at it, from my little balcony. Here you have a little tiny balcony that you could just sit out there and look, and this from this building that dates from that. And here's one of the other little things I loved about this place. Of course, they, as in most places in Europe, they serve you breakfast as part of your deal. And so I go into the breakfast buffet. Now, this is the world of cheese fondue and other fondue. And here for breakfast, not for dinner, is a chocolate fountain fondue with
Ooh.
marshmallows. It's like,
Ooh.
oh, for breakfast. My nostrils are just going, oh my God, I want this. So that was one of them. The other one is a place in Verona that was two 13th century palazzos with a which was had an open courtyard. They built the hotel reception area in the courtyard.
Wow.
And you could see they would left open parts of the walls so you could see the original bricked walls. And then when you went up into the the breakfast room, there were windows in the floor where you could see a Roman home complete with mosaics.
Wow. That is cool.
Yeah.
That is so, so cool. And to see, and I think it's a lot of Americans, and I'm just going to say I'm American, we get really fascinated with some of the old history because we don't have that depth of history here. And it is so interesting to see it around the world and be able to experience it and see things that by all rights really shouldn't even be here anymore, but yet still are for our viewing pleasure, for us to go and experience it. And that is something so amazing.
One of the articles I did in the magazine are the four remaining Roman arenas where you can still see a performance.
Oh, wow. You can
There are
still see
there are
performances?
something like there were 400, and four of them still have concerts and bullfights and other kinds of things in them. So, but let's not um, dismiss the value of what you can experience in the United States. I mean,
Oh,
for example, there are incredible Victorian hotels like the Mackinac Island and, the one in Colorado Springs, Broadmoor, and,
mm,
all these amazing, amazing hotels that you can experience a history from the late 1800s, and go to ghost towns. I mean, you can go to Virginia City and Tombstone, and these places are history is still alive in America, even though we've built over a lot of it. Go to the missions, the 21 missions in California.
mm.
Um, the battlegrounds in the South, Civil War,
Yeah.
and the museums. I mean, we haven't even talked about museums. I periodically do a blog on a great museum that's really interesting,
Wow.
um, like the ones in Dublin where you can see Viking gold that the Celts actually molded into incredible pieces of jewelry. There'll be a blog on that shortly. So, it's all around us. We just have to look for it and appreciate it.
And that's something so important. And a lot of people, you can even in the state you're in, you can be there and not realize the history that's around you and the amazing places, historical, bed and breakfast, historical hotels, historical museums to go and see, and you don't even realize they're there. I think that's something so unique with what you're doing is you can go on there and check out by state. That's amazing to see what's in there by state or by location. That's something that people have to research for so long. And then you go, oh, I missed something amazing right there and didn't even realize it.
We've just
That's,
added a map to the website
oh,
where, if you click on blog and you say map, then you can see I have one map for the whole world, one specifically for Europe, and one for the US. So you
wow.
can go and see which blogs you to look up if you're looking for a particular place.
That's amazing. That is really cool. And the thing is a lot of people like they want to go to Europe, but there's so much here to see. And the US is bigger than a lot of Europe. I mean, I'm in Wisconsin and Wisconsin is about the size of Germany. And I have relatives in Germany and they come over here and they're like, there's so little people here compared to there. But you have
But
to it's realizing how big the United States is and how much there is to cover and how much history is here. That is just simply amazing.
it is. And when you go to Europe, what's interesting is all the little villages all over the place. You don't
Mm.
have to have go from big city to big city. You can go to fabulous villages or small towns from place to place, and everything in between is wheat. I mean, it's the breadbasket of the world, and so
Yes.
there are wheat fields everywhere. And whereas in California, for example, you can't go from Southern California till the tip of California without seeing a vineyard these days.
Yeah. True. Very true.
So it's wheat and vineyards in Europe.
I love it. And you just started talking about the museums that people can see. Have
Hmm.
is there some museums that stand out for you that you
Yeah,
love to go see?
there's two in particular in uh, in in Greece, in Athens. One has the death masks of some
Mhm.
of the his significant mythological leaders.
Got it.
Um, and their gold, and then their stunning pottery from the various Greek civilizations. That's really interesting. And then the Acropolis Museums has since opened since my first trip. I went on this last trip, and it's got a lot of the friezes that, of course, many of them were taken to London by Lord Elgin, and you can also see the Acropolis friezes there in London. I mean, you can't miss with the British Museum. I mean, you got the Rosetta Stone and the Elgin marbles, and so many of the other phenomenal things that will enliven your knowledge of history. I had to do a quick tour. I would like to spend weeks in there. And then and for me, I love libraries too. So one of my blogs is on three of my favorite libraries. One is in Prague, one is in Dublin at Trinity College, and the third one where they have the Book of Kells, which is definitely worth paying to see.
Wow.
And then the other one is the Morgan Library in New York City. I used to
Mm.
live down the street from it, which was J.P. Morgan's library. And there is a fabulous historic novel that's based on truth that is well worth reading. It's called Personal Librarian, about the woman that he hired to basically started as a secretary, and she basically became the sole person responsible for acquiring some of the most valuable manuscripts and rarest manuscripts in the
Wow.
world, and other beyond the manuscripts, but they've got Gutenberg Bibles and a variety of other things. But the really interesting story about Belle da Costa is that nobody knew until 40 years, 50 years after her death that she was a Black woman posing as white. She
Oh,
was the
interesting.
most powerful corporate woman figure in America for 30 years, and nobody knew that she was a Black woman passing as white. She passed
Wow.
herself off as having Spanish heritage.
That's amazing and
And
very
so
cool.
it's a great novel. It is a terrific novel. And so that's a perfect example that when I did that blog, I included that book among the things that you needed to read.
That is very cool. Very, and that's the thing. There's so much out there you don't even realize is there until you start digging. Or if you don't have the time to dig, they can look through your blog and you've done the digging for them to find those unique, those amazing aspects.
Yeah.
And as you've been traveling, and I know you had said before when you went to your 9 weeks in Europe, you knew at that point you needed to take a break. You needed to come down and understand who you were and just take that break. How did that help you? And how did you know it was like time to go, time to take this break?
Well, really, it was passing 70.
Mm.
And when I hit my 70th birthday, and I thought, I have been denying myself all this for all my life because I'm too busy. I have this business, et cetera, et cetera. I can't get away. And I thought to myself, how much longer am I going to be able to lug a suitcase and a backpack full of cameras? And
Mhm.
I better go before. And there was a lot of pressure on me, and I was unhappy and feeling that, when am I going to do this? And I just said, nope, I'm going to do this now. And then once I did it, the pressure was off.
Yeah.
I still want to travel more, but it's like, okay, I went to see my bucket list cities. And then from that point forward, I could pivot any direction, but I had done the one thing that I had wanted to do for years and years and years. And so I saved up for it. I planned for a year. I got a travel agent that specializes in history. Um, and because I knew I didn't have the time to put this thing together. And I was more than willing to pay a little extra just because I didn't have the time to do this.
Right.
And for me, it was exactly the right thing to do because once that pressure was off, once I felt like I've done it, I've seen it, I have all these amazing pictures, I was a happier person. And it made me enabled to make the choices and the decisions without feeling the pressure of when am I going to have to do this? When am I going to have time? I don't know how many more years I'm going to live. So I just did it.
I love that. And there's a lot of people that are just wanting to do something, not sure how to tackle it, and not wanting to do the traditional way, just like you did with contacting. And is that contacting the travel agency also, or an agent that you have available that is available to people through your historic travel internet through the membership club then?
My understanding is that because it depends on who you get.
Right.
You need to specify, I'm looking for the historic aspect as opposed to just the budget aspect of this.
Right.
And this is where, give them some guidance. And if that person isn't the right one for you, that they don't have the expertise, then they'll find somebody else for you.
Love it. Love it. And that's something so important for people to realize. The people are there if you look for them, if you ask for specific people with your interests, with what you have going on. And you have such a varied interest out there that it is really cool and really crazy to see how much you are involved in and how much you explore. And as you're doing this, you're taking cameras, still taking the digital pictures now. Is this Is there a lot of extra you're taking along just to document and to take pictures when you're traveling now?
Well, first of all, I travel with an outside camera, an inside camera, and my cell phone. And a lot of the stuff comes off the cell phone that's just spectacular these days.
Yeah,
I don't have to take a close-up lens anymore because I can use my camera um, for flowers and things like that. So those are the three given things. But in addition to that, I usually carry a laptop because I want to be able to and what do you call it? Zip drives, so that I can make sure that I've got backups on backups on backups. And I'm also starting to, and I load this stuff into the cloud. So if something happens somewhere along the line, I'm not going to be, oh my God, I've lost all my photographs.
yeah.
So I take that along. And then, for me, um, there's, I can't seem to be able to get away with a suitcase under 40 pounds. I mean, no matter what I do, I try, but I also tend to be cold a lot, or in the summer it's too hot. So I have a lot of different clothes. And but last on that trip to Europe, I ended up sending home a lot of my clothes
Oh,
because it
wow.
was so hot. I thought it was gonna be cool in the evening sometimes, and it wasn't. And the other
Mm,
thing I ended up doing was buying a lot of linen clothes. I mean, the early settlers and the Egyptians had it right. If you're going to be in hot weather, linen is the best thing to wear.
wow. And for
So
those that
kudos.
haven't really worn linen before, what are the benefits to wearing the linen?
And it breathes. It
Mhm.
absolutely breathes. Now, if you want something that doesn't wrinkle, nah, it's a little bit harder. Most of the linen does wrinkle, but you just wash it, but don't wash them together if they're multiple colors because sometimes they'll run. But just wash it and hang it up, and you can wear it. After a day's of driving, what I would wash my clothes on a day that I knew that I was going to be hanging around the room, and or close by, and then the next morning all of the stuff would be dry.
Love it.
And so, but it breathes in ways cotton doesn't, t-shirts don't.
Mhm.
um and I bought linen pants that were breezy. A lot of the stuff that you can get from out of India is
Hmm.
really good for hot travel.
Love it. Love it. And now you've been to a lot of different places, and you've mentioned, going to some of the historic castles and being able to feel and knowing there's a lot going on there. There's other non-physical beings there. Have you also had those? Have you had so there's a lot of people that like to do like the ghost tours and just going to the places that are haunted. Is that also something you kind of break up or have available on your website or things that you're looking at doing?
Viator has a lot of ghost tours in
Okay.
different places. One of my favorite, of course, is New Orleans. How could you not miss in New Orleans? Um, it's fabulous. But yes, Viator has a good source of ghost tours and a lot of other things. I mean, if you just want an art tour, or if you just want you want a riverboat tour, an evening cruise, sunset cruise. I mean, there's those kinds of things, that you can specify what it is that you want and find them easily.
Love that. And Viator. So for those who don't know what Viator is, what all do they encompass? What do they have within that ability when they contact there?
So Viator, while it has a recognizable name and a massive website, is really locals who are running the local office. And they'll do the walking tours, and they'll do bus half day bus tours around the city. They'll also take you out of the city to places that are nearby communities, or a nearby city or a nearby village that you want to see. They'll have um, uh, they'll take you for a pub crawls, or beer tours, or art tours, or whatever. They usually have a whole array of tours that are available in any one market, and you can pick and choose what it is that you want to do. And they've had multiple times. So, you have a morning tour and an afternoon tour. So you have lots and lots and lots of choices. And I like them because they don't stand on ceremony. I mean, you don't have to show up dressed. You don't have to be concerned about what language you speak. They'll tell you which languages they make it available in. Um, so the 10 o'clock tour is English, and the 5 o'clock tour is French. So you can work around whatever they have available to you.
I think that's so important for people to realize that there's so much more out there, so much more available. And for those, I'm just hearing there's people that are, interested in just like the spiritual areas or the areas with very high energy. Is that also something that you kind of focus on or have focused on with maybe a blog or something you're looking at doing?
And it's something I'm looking at doing. I haven't done as much of, but I will in the future.
Awesome. Awesome. And it's so important. Travel is fun. It's enjoyable. It's expanding yourself, getting to know people from all around the country, all around the world. And it really helps, like you said, when you felt like you just needed to have that break too. You needed to do what you needed to do for yourself. And that's what's so important. For a lot of people have put off doing for themselves for so very long as they're helping family, helping doing their business, getting everything going. They just don't take the time for themselves. And this is a chance to take time for yourself. And I'm just hearing from my team. And for those who want to live vivaciously, can be watching through your blogs, reading through what you have, reading the books. There's so much there because energy is you don't have to actually be there to have that experience too. And
Mhm.
that's something you do with your blog when you can't get away. And having your membership, you can actually experience so much of it through your eyes, through your experiences. And that's something I think is so vitally important for so many people.
Well, and we're turning some of this stuff into videos for YouTube and TikTok and things like that. So if you just want a little visual sense of it, you can also take advantage of our social media sites. And we're going to be doing more of that as we go forward as well. But I agree. And the other thing is, you don't always have to go across the seas to get
Yes.
away and enjoy a little history. There is so much locally to you in US, in Canada, in Mexico. That's
Yeah.
get in the car and drive. Now, gas may cost you a little bit, or, the one thing I wouldn't recommend is that you um, do an electric vehicle trip in places where, you're not likely to have charging stations. But
That is
but other
true.
than that, if you go rent a car, but there's so much within driving distance, and it can be done with family and kids, and it doesn't have to be a massive expense to go overseas.
And that's something so important. There's so much right here, so much to see and do right here around you, around everyone, wherever you are, as long as you have people like you, Jackie, who have already done all the investigation, done the research, has so much of that out there. A lot of people may be surprised when you go on your website to see what's all there and on your blog to see. And I love the idea you have the map. I am definitely going and check out your map and checking that out.
Thank you. Well, and I think also if you get the 20 international cities that where you can immerse yourself in history, just go to thehistorictraveler.com/guide. That's going to give you a good survey of what's out there. Now, I also have a guide for North America. And all you have to do is thehistorictraveler.com/guide NA, as in North America. And you can grab 18 cities in North America that you can take advantage of. So either one of those, wherever you feel that you really want to dig in, use one of those for starting place.
I love that. Now, there's no excuse for any of you out there to say, I don't know where to start and I don't know what to do, because all you need to do is go to Jackie's website and you will find everything you need.
Sign on to the blog at the very least, and we'll add you, we'll send you newsletters to tell you what's new and what's different and what you should be paying attention to. And then if you're called, then join our membership program. As I said, it's only $19 a month.
That's awesome. 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 And I just want to thank you so much and remind everybody here, remember to go to thehistorictraveler.com. You're going to find that free gift there. It's with the /guide. And those links will also be down below. So make sure to go down below and check out those links. And then, like you said, you're on Facebook, LinkedIn. You're also now on TikTok and on YouTube. So they'll be able to see some of those different aspects you put together. I think that is so, you're offering so much for people to, I just feel such freedom, and I'm hearing from them for people to have this freedom, because a lot of people don't know where to start, but they're interested in it, but don't know where to start, where you've put it all together in one spot. And that is absolutely amazing. Is there
I'm so
something,
great.
is there something you'd like to cover before we close?
Um, Certainly, I want to encourage people to, if they can't travel, dig into the books. It's going to give you, it's going to lighten your load when a world that's challenging. It's going to give you something else to focus on, but it's also going to enrich your life. If you love history, it's going to make you take you to other worlds. It's going to transport you. If you can't be transported physically, you can at least be transported in non physically.
Physically.
In these works, and I encourage you, we've just got so much. We got 7,500 books over there.
Wow.
And or you can just read the blog and pick up the ones that I offer in the blog. And also in the newsletter, because I do one there's one in the newsletter every other week. So I'll give you a look at what I'm reading. So, we're here to support you in your journey of investigating, exploring, having an experience that's transcendent. And that's what the joy is for me. And enjoy my photos. I mean, you can relive what I lived, as you said, vicariously using my photos.
I love that. And my team is also saying, think about it for people who maybe can't travel anymore, or those that may be sick at this time. This is something great to add to share with them. Do you have
Well,
something to say with that?
I do. I forgot to mention the gift certificates that we do.
Oh,
You can actually buy a 3 month, 6 months, or a year-long membership for somebody. So if you do have somebody that's a history lover and you've given them everything else in the world and you don't know what to give them, you can give them a membership.
I love that. That's awesome. That is amazing because, there's so much more in what you do. I just feel you have so much passion behind the history, behind the traveling, behind just exploring who you are, exploring the world and connecting with people around the world. And that comes through so strongly in what you're doing. And it is so important for people to realize this is something that really it frees your soul. It makes you just feel lighter when you know you can explore. The world isn't small, but it is so large and just waiting for us to explore.
And I would love being your guide. I mean, I haven't been to every place. There's still many more places on my bucket list. So stay tuned.
But you've been to like 50 countries, 500 cities. That's
But
amazing.
I haven't been to South America. I've been to the Caribbean, but I've not been to South America except for 30 minutes in Caracas. And
Wow.
so that's on my bucket list. Turkey and Egypt are on my bucket list. So more to come.
Awesome, awesome. And more that you will be posting about in your blogs and on your membership. So what a great way to do it. And now now you can live vicariously through Jackie if you can't get there yourself. I love it. Jackie, I just want to thank you and I want to encourage everyone. Make sure to go to her website. Again, it's thehistorictraveler.com. You're going to find the information, the connections, the links to everything else in there. Check out her books. For those who are interested in everything else she's done, go on Amazon and you'll look up her name and you'll find all the books she's written. There's a lot of great information on there too. Jackie has a lot of different things she's had her hands in throughout the years. But I want to thank you, Jackie, so much for being here. And again, people go to her website, thehistorictraveler.com, and also Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok. There's so many different ways. And make sure to check out her free gift, thehistorictraveler.com/guide. And again, that link will be down below because you don't want to miss out on everything she has to offer. Check out her blog. That stuff is all free to look at and join her membership if you're interested in going a little bit deeper and having a lot more benefits with everything. So thank you so much, Jackie. Thank you so much for your time, all your knowledge, sharing it with all of us. I appreciate you so much. And thank you for being on here. And I also want to make sure to remind everyone to make sure to check out the next episodes of Edge Talk Radio. They are on the first and the third Wednesdays of the month at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And if you've missed any of the past episodes, no worries. Go ahead and go in and check out. You can go on my website or my website. You can go on Edge Magazine's website. You can also go on either one of our YouTube channel, and you can listen to it as a downloadable podcast, which is accessible on both of our websites or on pretty much every podcast app access out there. Apple, iTunes, all of those. It's all available there as a downloadable podcast. So make sure to check those out. And I just want to thank everyone. Thank you all for listening, expanding, and amplifying our universe together. Have an absolutely amazing day.